Hey, Brad Spencer here, and I want to share with you one of my recent big things that I've learned recently, and I call it the four quadrants of focus for your business. Now, this is really the easiest way to stop buying shiny objects and get back to work. I'm going to share with you my a little bit about what I've been struggling with at different points in my career and in my businesses, and then I'm going to show you how you can use these four quadrants of focus to really grow whatever it is that you want to do for your life. Okay, so first off, a little backstory. One of the things that you know I've kind of struggled with at times is that I've not always been the most focused person. Okay, this is a really big issue for me in the past and at different points. I've run 3 different businesses. I've been a part of some very large internet marketing companies, and I've basically, at times not been as successful as I could have been because of my lack of focus. I'm very energetic. I'm very talkative. I can go a lot of different places, and it's kind of a curse a little bit. Okay, so I've been there. I know what it's like to not have focus, and then also now to be very focused and kind of have that journey, and that's what I want to share with you today as you watch this video. I've bought thousands of dollars worth of stuff and that I've never opened. I went through this weekend actually as I record this and went through and looked at some of the stuff and realized it was actually pretty cool. And definitely would be helpful to me if I had used it at the time. And I've now got to go back and use it. So, bottom line, I struggled for years with lack of focus until pretty recently, actually. I would say in the last 6 months or so, I've really gotten a lot more focused, and I continually get better at being focused. Okay, and I want to share with you the solution that I found that worked for me and has worked for a lot of people that I've shared it with privately. Some of my friends have the same issue. It's a classic entrepreneurial trait, and I want to share with you that solution. Okay, really, Steve Jobs for me was the key. Okay, so recently I started a book about Steve Jobs. It's called Insanely Simple. And it's all about how Apple and Steve Jobs were dominated by an insane drive for simplicity. Okay, but what I realized about a lot of things that he did when he came back and rescued Apple, one of the things that he was really focused on was playing to win versus playing not to lose. Now that's a big distinction. Most of us play not to lose, meaning we're more afraid of risk and loss than we are about winning and gaining something and achieving a goal. And he did that quite a bit when he was rescuing Apple. One of the things that they talked about in the book was how even with a few months of money left, they were draining cash very quickly. He was still investing in advertising campaigns to get people really focused on building the new vision of Apple. They had about 6 months or so to get all the changes out, new products and stuff, and eliminating old products. They had this weird 6-month gap. So he was spending money during that time to really get people's minds away from the old Apple with like 26 different product lines all over the place, unfocused, since he was originally booted to when he came back, that little gap, they had 26 different product lines. It was unbelievable. Okay, and it really came down to 4 things. He cut everything down to 4 main product lines, and so I realized that was the key. It woke up my brain, and I don't know what it was. I've been cutting and getting rid of stuff and all these different systems for being focused, and then as soon as I heard this, it was like a light went off, like a light turned on and woke up and said, Brad, this is the reason why you were meant to hear this audiobook, was these 4 quadrants. So I copied his system of busting everything down to the bare minimum and the 4 main things, and I call it what I'm calling it is the 4 quadrants of focus. Okay, and what this really comes down to is 4 quadrants, meaning 4 areas of business. Okay, I think 4 is a very good number. It's balanced, and it's really good, and I'll show you why in just a little bit, why it works for me and what my 4 quadrants are. All right, so bottom line, you're really meant for more. Okay, there are millions of different business models out there, and all of them have their pros and cons. And I've done a lot of things over the years, but one of the big things and the number one root cause of all my failures was my lack of focus and drive on keeping the main thing the main thing. And that's really what the 4 quadrants of focus is really about. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what works for me. It's just my system. This is what I do in my business. I'm going to share with you, once I share with you those things, I want you to see kind of what I do to make my living, and then also to build my wealth to provide for my family. Okay? And next I want to share with you what I do to work on these 4 quadrants every day, how I cut out the distractions, and then how I set goals based on these 4 business lines. And I think this is really key, is you got to know what you want, what I do every day, how I cut out distractions so I stay focused, and then how I set goals, because all this stuff creates a really cool feedback loop. And that's what I want to share with you for my business, so you can kind of plan that out for your business. Okay? So the 4 quadrants of focus, these are my 4 quadrants of focus, and this is the way I make my living. Okay? Number 1, brokering. Okay, I put brokering in quotes because that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me, I broker webinars, and I introduce people to other people and take a cut of whatever business is created off of that. So very small introductory fee, kind of like an investment banker is the easiest way to think about it. Okay. Number 2 quadrant is my list of customers, which hopefully you're on, my various products, my blog that I'm building, and then all the various, branding things and things of that nature. Okay, it's really just as simple as it sounds, okay? Number 3, I have a real estate lead generation business, which helps realtors generate home listings. And number 4, I have an e-commerce operation that I'm building out with a business partner, and we're going to be working in a lot of various markets, and we're building the infrastructure for that very quickly. Okay, so those are my 4 quadrants of focus. Now, you might ask, all those kind of seem, brokering webinars and my products and stuff, that might make a little more sense. And what I really want to show you with these things is these 4 quadrants all have different things. My partner in the real estate lead generation business is one of my brokering clients for a webinar. I represent a webinar for him, and we do really well with that. My e-commerce partner helps me with brokering, and also, advises me on some of my other products. Another partner that I have that works with the e-commerce stuff in other markets like than we're in, he's also a brokering client. So all these things tie together. All the people that are involved in various businesses, they're usually involved in 2 or more of the quadrants that I have in my business. And that's on purpose, so everybody has an incentive to not only make me money, but I have an incentive to make them money throughout the normal course of business. Okay, that's just a good way to structure everything, is to make sure everybody wins on every deal. Okay, so here's how I work to stay focused each day. Now, this is really important. Every day is a struggle, one way or the other, for whatever you're pushing. If you're not struggling with something, you're not pushing hard enough, and you don't have a big enough goal to get where you want to go. For me, I'm militantly focused on being focused, if that makes sense. I think about all the time, what can I work on, okay? And really the main reason why I personally have 4 business lines, so to speak, in my 4 quadrants of focus is because each of them is driven by different goals, different partners, different deadlines, different timelines, and other issues, okay? So what my goals for all my various businesses are not always the same. Some of them are to make, money today, within the next 30 to 60 day time frame, and others are more long term. I have different partners who also have other businesses and different ventures that need to be part of, okay? There's different deadlines because each of them has different tasks and things, so there's different deadlines in the way they function and stuff like that. We have different timelines, meaning, some things take a while for them to pay off. I might work on one of my e-commerce operation, and we might not see the results of that, whether it works or not works, for a few days or maybe a few weeks or even a few months. The real estate lead generation business, same thing. We might test out new landers for ads to generate more MLS listings, but then that might, take us a couple weeks to roll it out across all our client bases. And then there's various issues that come up, different timelines, people get sick, things happen, Facebook ads run a change. It doesn't matter. Bottom line, when one of them each of them has different issues, I want to make sure that no matter what I'm doing, that I always have something to work on. And it really comes down to it. When I'm waiting on something in one of those 4 quadrants, I work on another. It's really that simple. For me, that is a really big issue in the past. I notice about myself, one of my biggest triggers for being distracted is when I feel like I have, quote, nothing to do. Now, of course there's always something to do, but if I don't have a list of tasks for various things or different projects and kind of like an overlay bird in the sky kind of view of everything, and I'm waiting on something for a bunch of people, I usually, kind of fumble around and, get distracted on stuff. And that's something that I realized about myself. So I'm always pushing on one of these businesses and being really focused on one of these 4, because usually no matter what I'm waiting on or how much work is getting done in each of them, there's always something that I can do right now in one of those business lines. Even if I'm waiting on a lot of things, there's always something. Okay, and that's the way I fight getting really distracted myself. And it might be something that you deal with, is that you're waiting on somebody and then you get distracted and you go down a rabbit hole. And this is my way of fixing that for myself. Okay, and really, for me, because I rotate through this stuff and get moving on stuff, work becomes kind of a game for me, instead of like that dreaded feeling of oh, I got a list of things I got to do, I got so much stuff I've got to get done, blah blah blah. That feeling doesn't happen for me anymore, because everything's a game, because I'm working on one thing, or I'm working on the next thing, I'm working on the next thing, and it's just to set them up, knock them down, set them up, knock them down. And I really function on games. I like to turn everything into a game, because it just, kind of brings out that competitive spirit, I guess. But that's how I stay focused each day. So here's how I cut out distractions, okay? When it comes to shiny objects, everybody I know who's an entrepreneur has issues with shiny object syndrome. I don't care who you are, you're not a true entrepreneur. I don't think if you're not attracted to things at times and stuff comes out of the blue that you really want to go down. I've never met an entrepreneur who doesn't have that issue to a certain degree. Okay? So with the shiny object stuff, I always ask myself this question: does this push forward one of my 4 quadrants? If the answer is yes, I check it out. If the answer is no, I move on. It's that simple. That's how I get rid of shiny object syndrome. Yes or no on pushing things forward. Yes, I check it out. If no, I move on from it. Number 2, if it's new projects or people who reach out and want to do business with me, new requests, okay, I ask myself, does this fit into my 4 quadrants? Okay, yes or no. If it fits, I ask myself then, can I get this project moving with just a few hours of work? Some projects, people have these big, undrawn out, kind of lackadaisical ideas. And like, for me, that doesn't work. Because if you don't have something ready to go for me, I don't want to hear about it, because I'll get distracted, and that's if something even fits in my thing. So if someone says, oh, hey, I've got this kind of webinar I'm rolling around, I was wanting to know if you wanted to represent it, I would tell them, hey, look, I'd love to consider it. Can you get a webinar done? Can you get some data? Can you tell me a little bit about the product and, like a 1-page description? Just something that I can get moving. Because with that, I can, spend a couple hours and get, some clients to host that webinar and move forward. If it's just an idea or something kind of off the cuff, I don't have time for that, because I can't get it within a few hours of me working on it, because there's too many things that need to get done. So I have to say no, okay, in those scenarios. So I always like to have a couple hours. If I can get things moving in the right direction, then I'm willing to take on the project. Okay? Bottom line, anything I buy, anything I commit to, anything I read, and anything I can focus on or produce, it's got to be a part of one of my 4 business lines. Okay? If it's not in one of my 4 business lines, it's going to go. All right? And bottom line, you really need to think about this one. And this is important. I'm going to say it again. It's got to be a part of one of my main 4 business lines. Okay? This is really the only thing you need to defeat distraction once and for all, is you've got to focus on your 4 quadrants of focus, your 4 business lines, the 4 things that you're going to do to make money. I've given you mine. You should think about yours. So here's how I set goals for each of these 4 quadrants. Okay? First off, you have short-term and long-term money goals. For short-term goals, things that make money in the short term, which for me is like 30 to 60 days ish time frame. I always like to look at the end of the month and say, can I systemize something to cut 1 to 2 hours of work each week? Can I create some templates? Can I create a workflow? Can I put an assistant on something? Something along those lines. That's what I like to do for short-term money goals. Stuff that brings in 30 to 60 days out, and it brings in money in that time frame, okay? Longer term, I try to set goals where I ask myself, where do I want this project to be at the end of the month? Okay, sometimes when you know something's going to make money in the longer term, there's a lot more variables. There's a lot more kind of clouded gray matter in that. It's not as isolated down. And quite honestly, there might be people that aren't ready to hear about my longer term plan because they're not ready in their own business, okay? So I just like to ask myself, where do I want this project to be at the end of the month, and what do I want to accomplish? It's purposely vague because it keeps things flexible, and it also prevents me from getting disappointed very much. I don't set my sights too high, especially when other people are involved who aren't as organized as me, okay? In all my businesses, I'm always asking myself the question, what can I systemize today that will pay dividends each month going forward? Okay, what can I systemize today that will pay dividends each month going forward? Okay, that's key. That's all my goals really come down to that statement. What can I systemize today that will pay dividends each month going forward? Okay, so here's your next step. What are you going to focus on? What are your 4 quadrants of focus? Okay, I really strongly suggest having more than one thing. The reason I say that is a great example. A lot of people are interested in using SEO in their business, okay? Now, SEO takes time, for example, and so if you aren't building something else while you're waiting for SEO to take off, you might have issues. You might get distracted. You might go down these rabbit holes because all of a sudden you're waiting for your SEO work to pay off and you don't have anything else to do. And that's when you really get distracted. I know that's when I get distracted, and a lot of my friends are the same way. So I want you to make sure you have more than one thing, so when we're waiting on one thing, you can focus on another. Okay? Don't buy anything unless it fits into your quadrants. If you are being promoted to, or you're looking at making investments in your business, if it does not fit into one of your quadrants, don't buy it. Okay, well that comes from buying stuff from me or buying stuff from somebody else. Don't buy something unless it fits into your quadrant. Okay, and the last thing I want you to do as far as your next step, make sure you extend your time horizon out beyond a few weeks. Okay, you are building a business, and that takes time. It's okay. You have to have 30 to 60 days is your near term, and then 6 months is longer term. Okay, 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years. It just depends on what you're doing. Okay, don't go for the quick hits, the quick bursts of traffic. The software that does spits traffic out of the sky, and everybody's going to think you're sexy and cool and awesome, and you're going to drive a Ferrari. All that quick hit crap is going to put you down a rabbit hole and put you further and further back from your goal. It takes work every day. It takes focusing on the main things and keeping the main things the main things. All right? So if you like this video, shoot me a note on Facebook. I'd love to hear from you. You can add me at facebook.com/BradSpencerIM, and it's right there on the screen. Or drop me an email at bjs380@gmail.com. Thank you for watching the 4 Quadrants of Focus video.